Though unfortunately, this is the time of year we have black flies, which are, but they will come out just about
In
the time
Mexico?
the weather. Mhm.
In Mexico.
No, in New Hampshire.
Oh, in New Hampshire. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're anywhere near, because I'm not really sure what New Mexico and Old Mexico is. I don't know if you're anywhere near Roti, whether you can meet up with Roti.
No, he's pretty, but Mexico's huge country.
Okay.
Road, I think China's closer to us than Roti, but she's really far away too.
Right. The distances are so great. It's a bit like when Nina said, oh, Lena can pop in and see you. Well, Melbourne, Sydney are long distances. It's the
Yeah,
same.
I was going to say Australia has plenty of long distance.
We have the same issue, yes.
Yeah, and desert too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Jonathan's family in Adelaide. Well, no, it's a long trip.
Yeah.
You don't think about doing it by car.
No.
Hello, Anne. Hello. Intl.Dhamma. Sawadika.
สวัสดีครับแนน Good morning.
We can't hear you, Anne. I heard you speaking. We can't hear you. Oh, I haven't got my microphone.
There, I'm back.
How are you, Anne?
I'm well, thanks, Tom. Doing pretty well. You got how much longer are you down in New Mexico?
1 week.
Oh, and then the trek home.
Yep, just a quick 5,000 kilometer drive. Yep.
How long do you take to do it?
We never know. It's probably 4 to 5 days. Yeah.
And you go over the mountains, don't you? The Adirondacks or Appalachians or
Oh,
something?
well, that's the end of, no, we don't really, we go a little on the south side of the Adirondacks, but there's plenty of other mountains between here and there out west. The mountains out here are much bigger than the east,
Oh, yeah.
much taller. In the east, we think a 7,000 foot mountain is tall. Here they're 10, 12, 14,000 feet.
So pardon my ignorance, but are you east or west of Texas in New Mexico?
We are northwest of Texas.
Okay.
Texas is southeast of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
We sometimes go through the top edge of Texas, but yeah, but far from Pina too.
Right. She's central.
I think you need to arrive with a map to show us all, Tom. When
Okay, I'll do that.
So you'll be driving next week then?
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, truth be told, we'll probably be asleep because we'll be tired.
Yeah, well, are you still in what time zone are you in now? Well, what time is, I guess that'll
It's
be
6 p.m. It's 6
Okay.
p.m.
Yeah, so you're one east of us then. It's 5
Yeah.
here.
When we get back there.
When we get back, we'll be 2 hours later. Yeah.
Yeah, so 3 hours difference between you
Yeah.
and me. Yeah,
still all civilized times for the discussion anyway, Tom.
it is. It is.
It's worked well for you in Mexico, New Mexico. Hi, Alberto. Hi, Alberto, in the middle of the night.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, everybody.
Hi. What are you, about 3 in the morning now?
Yeah. What 1 a.m.
1 a.m.
Perfect time. Perfect time for them. Best time for them.
The rest of the
Yeah,
world.
I know that. I know that because I know I can tell you the difference between 9 in the morning and 1 a.m. is much better. Trust me.
Oh, for you.
Really, it's much more quieter. everything is it's much more, no noises outside, no much visible object, no much sound, no much.
Do you go to sleep and wake up, or do you just stay up?
Actually, yeah, I have a short nap before. I just got up actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Where are you again? I forgot.
I'm Brescia in northern Italy.
Northern Italy. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Milan area, or where?
Yeah. Yeah. Lombardy region. Yeah. About 50 miles from Milan.
Are you here now, Ajahn?
สวัสดีค่ะ everyone
Sawadika, how are you, Ajahn?
Sawadika.
so now please start.
Do you have anything you'd like to start with, Alberto, to keep you awake?
Yeah. Okay. About God, about
Speak as loudly as you can, otherwise people
Yeah.
may have difficulty hearing you.
yeah. So, actually, I'll come back a bit. Just give me a moment, please. Anyone else's?
Yes, I have a query. Good morning, everyone. Sawadika, Tan Achan. Achan, the comment that has been talked about just recently about the head on fire, the hair on fire, and then it says, what is the world that is in flames at this moment? Khandhas, Nama and Rupa, Dukkha. And so what I'm asking is, okay, so we've learned that everything, all realities arise and fall away, but unless they're experienced by Jitta and Jeta seekers, they're quite impersonal. So would you still class the rupas that arise and fall on fire? I don't think I did.
Please turn on your mic, Ajahn. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, when there is a fire far away, it doesn't hurt at all. But when it's closer and on the head, what can one do, or what does one do, or what one will do?
Oh, that's very, very good, Ajahn. Well, when it's close on my head, I would try everything to put it out.
Yes, so it's ignorance. It's just like a fire, because it's like the conditioned fire. Without it, no fire at all. But itself is fire when there is the understanding. It's on the head, not understanding what is that now as naturally, everyday life. What is seen, what is heard is all around. No understanding of the truth, the absolute truth of anything at all. Is that more dangerous than a fire?
Yes, and that has sort of answered the second part of my question, because I didn't really get why Lobha, Dosa, Moha were likened to flames, but because you've given that analogy of far away fire and near fire, which is the danger, I suppose you would say, because it keeps on hurting us in a way. Well, that's or keeps on burning until it's put out or
So,
eradicated.
yeah, when there's no understanding of this moment at all, it seems like it's not fire at all. But think about how it keeps on arising and falling away all the time. And nobody experienced that truth, so it doesn't hurt. So even that comparing to the fire, for those who understand the truth, to see the danger of that, because is there any understanding of what is there now? If not, what is there? Attachment, asra, so very subtle. How come without ignorance? The one who understands the truth of that which is now appearing as not self can understand what is the use of just seeing, hearing, and thinking all about that which appears pleasantly or unpleasantly all the time, from moment to moment, and then die. What is left? No more. Even who's just that who died. That's why only understanding can understand the absolute truth of this very moment. To see it's just like a fire on the head. And actually, when it's that level of understanding as Kayayana, after experiencing the arising and falling away, the world is just breaking all the time. When it's not seen, it's just like the fire which is far away. But when it's closer with right understanding, would anyone would like to go on, keep on? Only that which arises and falls away, pleasantly or unpleasantly, painfully or just not painful at all. By nature, by its conditions, and then no more. Only just a very tiny moment, very short moment of that which now experiences. Whatever is seen, so many moments of seeing, to condition the shape and form, to make it known as something, and cling to it, no understanding that it's not that anymore. So Buddha thought about the fire on the head for those who begin to understand the truth, that ignorance is not far away at all. It is this very moment. And only those who understand the truth can see the danger of ignorance. Because without ignorance, there cannot be anything arising anymore at all. So no one is disturbed by seeing now, hearing now, thinking now. Not even thinking that it's not there anymore. Nothing. And just one word, not something, not anything, no one and no thing, only that which now appears by conditions. If there's no seeing, there cannot be that which appears as something to be clung to, as something or me, or this person or this person at all. So what's the use of just thinking and then gone? Just watching or seeing the play, very, very attaching, very, very pleasant all the time until it ends up no more. And now before death, it's just like that. Just play on this moment and other moment and other moment until it's the end and then gone. Nothing is there. But it's not there even right now when Panya is there to understand just a moment that it's not the same one at all. Even seeing right now or hearing in between and thinking on and on. That is the truth, the absolute truth. Who can change the absolute truth? That which now appears has arisen and then fallen away unknowingly. But the truth can be discerned, it can be directly experienced. And at that moment, no one at moment of the reality which arises and see just arises and falls away. And the other reality which experiences in life are just like that. That's why it's not enough just to experience shortly the truth, but to apply after that, understanding what is there as just it has been realized as it is, little by little, being acquainted to the characteristic, which is not anything, not nothing, something at all, because it's gone. That's why the understanding of the truth of it, after hearing this, begins to develop little by little to understand whether it's true or not, until it can condition moment of understanding what is there. And at that moment, no one there. Cetasika, Sati, Patana, Panya, which has been developed enough to understand that very moment to be just one object, one characteristic of a reality at a time. For example, hardness now. Begin to understand its characteristic at that very moment. It's time, no detachment to the other which comes next. Because there is intention, there is attention to the object as it is, only that naturally by conditions and then gone. And it can be just taste or sound or color or whatever, naturally by conditions. So the development of the truth of that actually there's no one. The reality which experience many characteristics, hatred or ego or whatever, and the reality which cannot experience all day is touch, it's seen, it's heard, it's tasted, and then gone. Every moment is just like this. Is it not true? Who can change it? Is there anyone besides the Chitta, Cetasika, and Rupa? Just to develop the understanding, not hurry, try not to have it, try to get rid of it. It's impossible. But right understanding develops until it can understand what is that in daily life, which hasn't been understood before as it is, as just as it is. Hardness cannot be anything. Sound cannot be everything, only that which is heard and then gone. When the truth is like this, at level of intellectual understanding, it can understand better and better, a little clearer, that can be directly understood. Right now, hardness, seeing, sound, thinking, and so on, they are there. But depends on conditions, whether seeing it's the fire on the head or not yet. So just the word fire on the head is at moment of payayana, after uttayapayana, the arising and falling away, it's directly known or realized as it is, no one there at all. So when there is no understanding of the absolute truth, which can be directly experienced stage by stage, we just think about it, but it does not appear as it is. To panya at level of intellectual understanding or patipati level, it has to be by pativeda. As now it arises and falls away, so it can be realized when there's right understanding, which let go, clinging in ignorance of that which comes next and next and next. Just now, even now, it's gone. Unknowingly, rapidly, and the next one follows instantly. So how can ignorant can understand that until it begins to have firm confidence of the truth enough? And those moments are moments of parami, from hearing again and again, again and again. This moment is gone, and many moments of akusala in between, unknown. How can it be known? Because right understanding is not strong enough, but it has to be just a little stronger by its condition, by the nature of everything, which is conditioned to arise in false way secretly, because even we talk about that which now experiences an object, so many realities are there. Not only that which is achieved, but also the other mental factor arising together as conditions for that very moment to arise, just to arise, and then gone, because it's arisen by conditions for it to arise. That's all. From moment to moment, hear again, listen again, consider again, by themselves, by Cetasika and Citta, no one there at all. It's now. And the object which is now can be studied to understanding it. At first, it is that which has to be understood. Otherwise, ignorance is there. In order to have less ignorance, there is only one way. Understand that which is now appearing, little by little, by conditions, to develop the understanding of unnothingness. No one can do anything because actually they are all dhammas, different ones, arising by conditions and then following instantly. So natural. By conditions, see, so no selection for any object to be known at all, because it's now there as object. So what about the understanding of that? From hearing and considering, it's there. It's not far away. It's that which can be experienced directly with right understanding of its nature as different ones, because now there are many moments and only one object can appear at a time. That which is vitakka or passa is not known yet. But what is that? Seeing, and that which is seen. Even that which sees takes quite a long, long time to understand its truth and to begin to letting go ignorance and the idea of self. Who see, even one does not speak out at all. It's there and who sees the idea. We don't have to say out or speak out at all, but I see it's there for sure. That's why it's not just trying to find out where's the self or where's I. Anytime, thinking, touching, seeing, liking, disliking, hearing, smelling, tasting, all 6 doorways in samsara. From moment to moment, no matter where, in heaven or Brahma world, hell or human being or animal kingdom. The truth is the truth, and it can be known when there is hearing about what is there as it is by the one who has realized the truth, to talk about, to tell about the absolute truth, for the other to consider whether it's true or not. And when it's true, be truthful to the truth, that it can be realized more by hearing more, considering more. And more means how long it is. For example, Sariputta, how long in life to accumulate the understanding to become asotapanna. See, but people today has no thought about it at all. That it's how long it will take to be acquainted to that which sees as just the see, and it's gone. Yesterday seeing, just a moment of seeing, everything. This is the way to implant the direct understanding of that which is now appearing. It has to be that which appears to be known. And when there is some attention to the characteristic. At that moment, no thought about anything at all. It begins to be acquainted to that which sees, it sees, and that is seeing, that is seeing. So seeing is that which experiences an object which is seen. That which is seen is experienced by a reality which can see, which arises just to see, not like or dislike, just that which sees. Little by little.
And so, Ajahn, just another quick question. So it takes right understanding to actually see that everything is on fire. I mean, we can think about it, but to really understand that, it takes right understanding to actually see, doesn't it?
To be truthful, this is parami. Without it's impossible to understand the truth. Is there fire now on head?
Oh, I'm sure there is, but there's not enough panya to really. Well, intellectually, yes, I understand, but most of the time it's just lopadosa moha.
It is only thinking about it. See, just thinking. And thinking is not really experiencing the heat or the danger of whatever is there now, as it is on the head. So very close now, this moment.
You mentioned Ajahn Bayanyana after Udyabhyanyana and Banganyana, when there is not only the direct understanding of the rising and falling away of dharmas, but the understanding of the danger and the terror of the strong defilements which are still there, clinging to that which is rising and falling away. And that's why it is the understanding of the fire on one's head at that time. Is that correct?
Because you see that it just the way to explain the moment of seeing the danger of whatever arises and falls away. Compare
Because
it.
now we talk about it and think about the danger, but only then is it the direct realization of the danger of that which arises and falls away, and which is the object of clinging and ignorance.
For example, right now, does seeing arise and fall away? But it's not as dangerous as when it appears to vipassana, because now we think about it, but it does not appear as it is. So how much understanding of the truth just from hearing, and at the moment when it's there, appearing by nimitta, arising and falling away. That's why truth is so very important to understand, so that one cannot get lost or have some other idea to try to do this or that, but to be truthful to this very moment. No understanding of seeing as it is. Why not? Because there are many objects appearing together right now. It seems like that. But in truth, the moment of seeing only how short it is, and what that which can impinge on it when they're seeing, that appears at moment of seeing only how short it is. And without the mind or in between, how can it appear as that? But when minder appears, minder experience what sensor has experienced. We use the word panyati. So there is the understanding, even how short it is. It's not that very moment of It's arising and falling away, just seeing itself. Because before seeing, there's also other citta. After seeing, there are also cittas. But now, only seeing, see, and with other objects around. So how, what it means by that which arises and falls away, it has to be much clearer than it appears now. The world appear and what is meant. World is one reality, one moment at a time. So imagine when it appears. When it appears as one moment, one reality, nothing like things around or something around or I am there, not at all. Because right understanding can understand that which appears as it is, as it is. So seeing no one there at all. The object is so very tiny, very short, because it's just that which impinges and then gone instantly. Otherwise, it's not the breaking world at all. And before that can appear, the understanding, the moment, the reality, which experiences the nature of that which experience is different from that which cannot experience. Never be the same characteristic, because the reality which arises and experience doesn't have any shape, sound, taste, or anything at all. Just that without rupa at all. Nothing, only that which experience. That is the only moment that can begin to let go the idea of self, stage by stage, to the end, moment of enlightenment, the truth. Think about Sariputta. In his life, he had accumulated so long time, all parami, just to be a Sotapanna after hearing Asachi. And what about now? The development of understanding little by little of that which is there in life, eons and eons ago, with ignorance, to be the moment of beginning to understand the truth. It's there now. Who make it arise? No one there at all. It's there. And sound appears in between at this moment of hearing, there's seeing, there's thinking, and other mental factors, depending on what is there as the object in daily life or adhamas. Develop the understanding of each one to condition the moment when it's there can be known, little by little, as its characteristic as experiencing or cannot experience. And these are the words, but in truth, it doesn't need any word at all. Like now, seeing does not need any word to be called seeing. So natural, just understand what is there when hearing about that which is now appearing. For example, visible object, see, at moment of seeing, it's different from at moment of thinking about shape and form and what appears as different colors, but each color has to be directly experienced. Otherwise, it cannot appear as different ones at all. And this is Virya Parami and Kanti Parami. Also Nekama Parami. Begin to let go wrong understanding and ignorance, attachment. And understand the difference between the level of intellectual understanding and when it's direct understanding.
Achan, that not to know the difference between the two requires panya.
Certainly. Absolutely.
It's difficult, you know, to know the difference between just wise thinking and panya. I mean, I heard you say some time ago that wise thinking can be with lopa. It's not necessarily panya.
It's just like now, seeing and then hearing and then smelling seems there together, but in truth, each is different at different moment too. So it depends on how short we talk about it or how details are to be known.
At the moment when it's wise, it can't be with loba. So manasikara can be with wise or unwise. That can be wise or unwise attention, but when it's wise, it has to be with kusala citas, not with loba. So maybe.
Okay, so it might be kusala citta, wise thinking, but not necessarily panya. Maybe
Any
that's where
kusala, but often in the context, it's referring to wise attention with panya, but it can be without panya too when it's kusala, but never with loba.
Right. And a moment ago, Sarah, you spoke about, excuse me, I have to shut the window. There's that noisy tractor going past. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear it. A moment ago, you said something about the fire on the hair is like terror and danger. Knowing, well, the terror sounds like dosa to me. How do you?
When it's actually just a translation for Vajnana, which is the understanding, the danger or the terrible nature of that which arises and falls away, the horror of what arises and falls away, because the kilesa have not been eradicated, so they're still clinging to that which is so dangerous. So sometimes it's translated as knowledge of terror, but yes, it has to be understood that actually it's the understanding of the danger or the fearfulness or the terror of that which arises and falls away and is the object of clinging, the fire on one's head.
No, this is really good. It's explained a lot to me.
Because the Udyabhya Jnana, which Ajahn referred to, is the direct understanding of the arising and falling away of realities, the fourth Vipassana Jnana, and then, the third Vipassana Jnana, and then it is followed by the Bhanga Jnana, which understands that it cannot be that which arises and falls away, can't be any refuge at all. And this is the beginning of the understanding, the abandoning of that which is conditioned. Right. And then that is the fifth Vipassana Jnana. And the Bhaya Jnana is the knowledge of the danger or the terror of that which is conditioned. The understanding, the fire on one's head at that moment. Sorry.
And I think, you know, sometimes listening to this and getting more details, I feel anxious because knowing there's nothing that can be done. This is just the way it is, and it will go on and on and on. And sometimes it's comforting, and other times it's very anxious making. So I guess those moments are the moments that can be known as well.
Right. Yeah. And the understanding is not strong enough to understand directly. And at those moments when understanding directly the danger of what arises and falls away, there's no anxiousness, no anxiety, no dose at those moments, because it's like the big letting go of that which is conditioned, arising and falling away.
Right, right. Oh, this has been wonderful. That's really cleared up. And so thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Achan. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
And Zita, it's Tanajan who referred to that earlier on by Jnana, which relates to the innate nature of samsara, or the nature of rise and fall. And as Sarah was saying, Bhaya can be translated in different ways, sometimes mostly as fear, but as you said,
Sorry, but sometimes I get a little confused about all your words. I lose it's. I seem to lose the understanding of what has been said. Look, I know lots of people really appreciate the comments, the explanations in Pali, but it's confusing for me. So I'd like to. I mean, you can continue, but I'm not necessarily going to get very much out of it. Sorry. But I'm sure other people will be interested.
I'd like to just welcome Lucas. Very glad to see you here, Lucas. Very glad to see you, Lucas, and to know that you're listening again, and hope you're well.
And just while Lucas is thinking of coming in, I'd just like to go back to Azita's topic, because there are a couple of references to on fire in the suttas. There's a reference to the head being on fire, or the hair, and there are references to the world being on fire, and they're slightly different in meaning. When it talks about the head being on fire, I think that's a reference to the need for urgency, the need to develop awareness and understanding at any possible moment, and not something to be put off. References to the world being on fire, and I think I didn't quite catch your original question, but I think you're asking about rupas. The world being on fire or ablaze is a reference to the inherent nature of realities to fall away. And as you rightly said, both references to being on fire require understanding, the developed understanding, in order to be fully appreciated. But I think we can get a rough idea of what they're talking about. We can understand that realities that arise and fall away disintegrate, as Ajahn often says, gone when rupa falls away or nama falls away, gone forever. And so what we take to be a continuous, lasting world is in fact things that are only having momentary existence. But for myself, I feel that there is not yet the understanding that directly sees the momentariness in that respect. But at a conceptual level, it's possible to grasp and consider.
Yeah, I think that's important, that, you know, that on the conceptual level, on the thinking level, to grasp it, because I think until that the realities are understood intellectually, there's no understanding the deeper meaning of fire on the head, or you know, near and far dangers, near and far. That was what Achan explained, you know, when I said impersonal rupas, far away fire, whereas lopa dosa moa is right here fire. So that was a really good explanation, and so thank you also.
Right.
And
so of course,
I must go on.
No, go on.
I was just going to apologize to Sundara for chopping him off. I didn't mean for him to stop, you know, other people may be interested. I just needed to stay on the track I was on.
On the sense of near and far, of course, the rupas that are being experienced now are close. So they are also described as being part of the things that are the world that is on fire, includes rupas being experienced. Yeah.
And it's also a good point, because if there's no understanding of the near fires, the strong clinging right now to what is experienced, how can there be any understanding of the far away fires?
Right,
So
yes, that's
good point,
that was
Mr.
really
Jan.
good. That's become quite clear.
Yeah,
So,
I
yes.
appreciated it too.
Thank you. Well, we'll let somebody else have a go for a while.
And I like to add that usually when we think about fire and we think we know fire, it's the near fire that's talking. It's not Panya.
Possibly Sukin, yes, yes. Look, it's very tricky. Like I like what Achan says about Lopa being the magician. You know, we think this is probably Kusala, where it's probably most likely just a nice, quiet attachment to what we think we understand. So, yes, it's not easy. That's all I can say.
And I think when you were just asking about thinking, wise thinking, as being reference to Kusala, to Lopa, to Akusala, I think what Achan was trying to say was that there's a short moment of understanding and a lot of thinking. And that lot of thinking is usually with Lopa. So what we come to a conclusion and think overall that this is wise thinking is usually just perhaps one moment of understanding, but followed by a lot of unwholesomeness, thinking with attachment about the subject. Yes,
That's a good, because the actual recording I was listening to was from, I think, 2011, and it's when Achan mentioned wise thinking with Lopa was what I heard. But what you've just explained makes quite a lot of sense. Yes, thank you. Very good.
Wise thinking followed by lots of Loba, perhaps.
Exactly.
Followed by lots of thinking of Loba, yeah.
Yeah. And I think also Achan spoke earlier about moments of understanding. It need not interrupt, because I had this idea that if there's a moment of understanding, everything stops, but not at all. One moment of understanding can be quickly followed by the continued conversation. So that's just what Sukin was mentioning. So yeah, wonderful, thank you.
Lots of thinking with Loba, with the occasional moment of understanding of wise attention in between.
In between, yes. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Actually, Sarah, the thing I had quoted, what is the world that is in flame at this moment? Khandhas, Nama Rupa, appearing one at a time, actually came from you on a post through Useful Posts. So, because I went this morning before the session, I went back to the Useful Posts and looked up fire, and there's many posts on fire. So that was just the first one I read, and yeah. So thank you again.
Thanks, Sincita. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Ajahn, at the end of the discussion last week, we were talking about the vasana, the different manners of body and speech, like the different ways of sitting, the different ways of speaking, and so on. So conventionally, we understand everyone has different habits, different ways of gesturing, different ways of sitting, different ways of lying down, and so on. But these are just conventional examples, because when we mention the habit of sitting, in reality, of course, there is no sitting. There are just chittas that condition kaya vinyati and different groups of rupas, and different groups of rupas conditioned in different ways. So when we're talking about the vasana, are we just referring to all these different groups of realities conditioned by chittas, kusala and akusala, that make up what we refer to as the manners of body and speech?
Is there no condition at all?
All conditioned.
Appearing. Appearance.
For the appearance, yes. Well, a bit like when we were talking about the skin and so on, with the different groups conditioned by different ways, by karma and by citta and so on.
It shows that citta is so very, very intricate, very, very subtle, because it can condition also the habitual manners of the way one speaks, walk, or sit.
Yes. So we're really talking about the different, here in these examples, the different groups of rupas conditioned by chittas, and not necessarily just the chittas that are present, because we referred to the examples of arahats that still have those manners and ways of speech and behavior conditioned by akusala chittas in the past, that those habits are still there, but it's not referring to the chittas that are conditioning those manners right then and there. So it's very complicated, very subtle.
Can it be the strength of the condition, accumulation?
It has to be. It has to be the strength, that it still has its effect, even though those akusala chittas are not arising at all. Like even now, when someone moves their leg or changes their posture, different vasana conditioned by that tendency of different chittas in the past and the present.
Mm-hmm. And there can be the understanding of it can be trained, but depending on how strong it is, easily or not very easily at all. And for those who have accumulated very, very strong such manners and accumulation, no one can stop. At moment when one is alone, different from when one is among the people, see, and so on, each moment, by citta and by the subtlety of the accumulation of even posture or the habitual manners through body and speech.
How can one talk about the accumulation of posture, because it's not a nama, like we talk about the accumulation of the citta and cetasikas, but we cannot talk about the accumulation of the groups of rupas. So when we talk about the accumulation of posture, what is meant?
What about the attachment? We have very, very how do you say, comfortable lying down when we sleep, right?
Right, yes.
Different one, how calm, the same citta, but the subtlety of the accumulation of attachment to such and such is there too.
Yes. And in the case of the arahats, because there's no more accumulated attachment, no more attachment arising, but still the way of lying down is different, because it's become the habit conditioned by those akusala citas in the past, for example. So it still has its effect, even though it's not the posture itself that is accumulated, and there's no attachment there that is still accumulated.
Mhm. Otherwise, there cannot be the difference between sitting, different people, the way they sit or walk.
And we were talking about the Buddha, and we know in the case of the Buddha, there's no more habit or underlying vasana conditioned by previous past akusala citas, as there is in the case of other arahats, or no vasana of that kind at all. Can one still talk about, in the case of the Buddha, the vasana, the way of behavior conditioned by past kusala citas, or no vasana at all?
There are two kinds of vasana, the wholesome and the unwholesome. And for the how long he had developed all kusala, including fine manners.
So,
And if someone would like to train the way one sits to be more pleasant, that can be done. But how long to become Buddha?
yeah. So we're talking about because of the length of the time that the paramis were accumulated for so long, for so many aeons, enough to become a Sambuddha. So this is why it's different for the Buddha than from other arahats, why there are no more vasana conditioned by past akusala at all.
Sarah, my thinking is this, that vasana is applied generally to everything that's been accumulated, that all the behaviors, all the mannerisms that's been accumulated throughout samsara. And pointing this out, that say an arahata walking a strange way, is just to show that it's not saying that pointing out the akusala, just the akusala, but at that point, given that the arahat has eradicated all defilements, why is he still walking like that? So that's what it means, that in the case of the Buddha, even this is not there. It's such behavior conditioned by past akusala is not there. But for arahat, although no more kilesas, such things remain, something like
Yes,
that.
yes, I agree. Yep, because that habit has been accumulated for so long, and they're not the Sambuddha, so it's different. But there is still the behavior and manner for both arahats and the Buddha, that vasana that is conditioned by past kusala and the purity of the citta. Like the way the Buddha sits down is different from the way that other arahats will sit down, and certainly quite different from the way that we will sit down.
And I think bodily movement and posture can be seen as a product of intention, it has a mental element to it, just as it requires mental intention to lift one's arm or to drink something. So when one's speaking, the movement of the lips and teeth and tongue and so forth are all driven to some extent by citta, by consciousness. And in the case of the Buddha, and I think that eliminating the akusala of those doesn't then give, or just leave the pure posture or walk. I think that must also have been trained over the lifetimes in order to manifest finally in the Buddha at time of his enlightenment. but I'm not sure about the marks, how they come about, but I guess they're a result of karma.
And when we talk about the training, well, there is the training like children are trained to sit or stand or walk in a certain way. The training of Thai children 30 years ago is different from the training of Thai children today. Like some people will look at Ajahn sitting on the stage for 2 hours and say so much kusala because she hasn't moved once. Well, this is also for Thai ladies who were trained a long time ago, different from today. So we can't tell from the outer appearance, but then there is the training through the development of kusala, which is another kind of training, the training that was accumulated for the arahats and the Buddha. So one can sit in a certain way because of a lot of lobha or a lot of intention to be that way, or it can be from the accumulation of understanding. So we can't just tell from outer appearance unless we're referring to the arahat or the Buddha. And like we saw with the arahats, easy for people to get the wrong idea completely, like I think we were talking about Mahakachana, who was skipping down the hills. So who can tell from, no one can tell from the outer appearance at all. Lucas or Alberto, anything either of you would like to come in with now? Or anyone else?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this subject, which is about, I think also John was saying this, about the Harant, which still works in maybe awkward way or which is the some sort of leftover from the past akusala accumulations, and so I think the vajana for the Harant is still refers to his past akusala vajana, not to the kusala like for the Buddha, which has no akusala vajana, but is still. But of course, it has all just kusala asana. But for the ordinary, I'm not sure if it's the right word, ordinary Harant is the akusala vajana still, even he has no akusala, but the akusala vajana still in place. That's what I think Ajahn was. That's what I got from what Ajahn was explaining about kusala and akusala vajana, which I think makes sense because only the accumulations of Sambuddha doesn't have so much akusala accumulated like all other Arhat. Completely different kind of accumulations. Cannot compare between the two at all, I think.
I think Jan referred to the length of time to become the Sambuddha, the length of time that all the paramis are accumulated and so on. Like if it was the same length of time for the arahats, maybe also there would not be those effects.
It would be a Sambuddha.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Panya can do all sorts of miracles. About also about the moment of waking up, Ajahn was explaining that it's already there is already the self, right? Just after the first moment after waking up, it's the self is already there, taking, seeing, and whatever arises for self, and that's of course it's so true, but it's so so difficult to see, because it doesn't look like the seeing that moment of waking up is not even thought about as the self being awakened yet. But I don't know. I think it's helpful for what Ajahn was saying, that just the self is there straight from the first moment of first moment of the process of being awakened.
Alberto, when the chan was referring to the moment we wake, she was pointing out bhava tanha, not so much ditthi, wasn't she?
I thought so too, just clinging to being, clinging to existing, just clinging to what is there instantly.
Yeah, asava are the first. Asava follows the sense door. Actually, not follows. Asavas arise right in the sense door process. So, because the first moment of waking up, it's when the seeing begins, and seeing and the other sense door process begins to arise again after the bhavanga of the deep sleep, and yeah, it can be bhava, bhava asava,
Any of the asavas.
yeah.
But I think Ajahn is not referring to the asavas because they are taken for granted all the time, flowing, oozing out all the time. That is their feature. What distinguishes them from those same tendencies that are of a level that manifest. I think Ajahn was suggesting that this subtle clinging to existence can appear at that time when one first wakes up after being asleep, and there's I would say it's a combination of moha and also this kind of clinging. So there's the sense of what's the word? Reflecting or enjoying or being grateful for existence, being alive, and also no particular noticing of realities, any other reality at that time, just a general sense of being alive, as it were, and being grateful to be alive, or yes, being happy to, yes, being attached, yeah.
Or not.
or not. It depends on what side of the bed, what side you slept on.
Yeah, oh no. As Sarah once said, oh no, not seeing again.
What is my breakfast?
Well, I agree. Sometimes one would rather keep being lost in the dreams than facing the reality of the next day or the awful thing that happened yesterday.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. No, the thinking starts again. Please put
Here
me
we go
back to
again.
sleep. Or not thinking again.
Yeah, but Alberto, I think soon, immediately after the Bhava, that's what I was thinking on Saturday when Jan was talking about taking for something, that immediately after waking up, after the Bhava, this taking for self is also follows all the time.
Actually have a question for Jan about the comment she made on Saturday, because we chat about how Bhavasava refers to subtle clinging to anything, because in the idle process to the visible object, so it can be to anything, just this very subtle clinging to existing. But Jan, on Saturday you made a comment referring to Bhavasava as clinging to a being. I didn't know why you mentioned a being. Do you mean just to being? Because clinging to a being sounds more like Sakaya Ditti or Atta Ditti rather than Bhavasava.
Is your microphone on, John?
We can't hear you, Ajahn. Maybe we'll carry on and let Ajahn come back later. But Anne, were you trying to speak a moment ago? No. Did you hear that comment on Saturday, Sukin or Alberto, when she mentioned clinging to a being? I don't know whether it was just
A slip, I think, maybe a slip.
Might have been just a slip, yes. I think it should be meant just clinging to being, yes. It was just the way it was said, a being. I wasn't sure, yes.
And also, I think the idea of me in terms of clinging to existence, bhavatanha, and being happy to be alive, as it were, can be mana rather than ditti. I don't think it has to involve ditti. It depends on one's developed understanding, of course, because the Sotapanna who has eradicated wrong view of or wrong view will still have the bhavatanha and the associated feeling of the joy of being alive for him or herself. Obviously, the idea of clinging to existence has to involve oneself. It's not any clinging to other persons existing. It must be relating to oneself. So it's there independently of whatever right or wrong views have been developed about self.
And I remember the comment Ajahn made about while you were discussing with Ajahn about this. And what I remember, which I really liked, is that she said that for for the Aryan, for the Arant, there is still memory of people, memory of and memory of things like classes, but for the non-Aryan, it has to be like wrong view and taking for something because not having understood directly and by Vipassana Jnana first and then by all the so many stages of realization of the truth that there's no thing, then until the end of the end of the path that in which all the wrong view is eradicated is there. You know, it's nothing like it's not my wrong view. It's just a reality which is conditioned to arise. It's and when it doesn't arise, it's not there. And when its condition is there, yeah, I don't think. This doesn't mean, of course, to say that wrong view is there all the time, or is there all the time in the sense there are so many chittas which arises, and loba is the reality which arises most than the other, and so also ditti must be arising many times without being aware of it, without even not only being aware by panya, but also not being aware by conventional thinking, like maybe loba can be more apparent. So I don't. I don't know if it's wrong view or not, or bhav or mana or another or just loba. Only panya can answer that question.
Ajahn asked me to repeat the question, so I just mentioned. I think the first question or point that Alberto brought up was regarding comments that you sometimes mention, Ajahn, about when one first wakes up and how there is clinging instantly to an idea of self that sees or hears, and there was a discussion about whether it isn't referring just to the clinging to existing bhavasava and so on. And then there was another point I made a comment that on Saturday you mentioned that bhavasava is clinging to a being, which I was surprised at, because usually we just say that bhavasava is just subtle clinging to anything, like even visible object, just to existing. So I'm not sure why you mentioned to a being, because that sounds more like a wrong view. So I don't know if you have any comments on any of these points.
Shall we talk about the subtlety of reality stage by stage? For example, is there Alberto? Is there Alberto now? Is there Alberto? Is there Sarah? Is there Jonathan? Please answer. Is there Alberto?
No, John.
Yes or no?
No, I'm sure. I know that there is no Alberto. Well,
A
that's
bit louder,
intellectually understanding.
Alberto. Can you speak a bit louder?
Yeah, intellectually, I know there is no me, no you, no Ajahn, no Sarah, no.
And just to, sorry, Alberto, if you go to settings, you can increase your microphone receptions.
Okay,
Maybe.
yeah,
sorry.
I have to.
Naturally, is there Alberto?
Yes, naturally, yes.
And why there is, yes, there is Alberto. If there is no Alberto, as one takes from that moment, which is the reality which experiences an object is there. There must be Chitta, the reality which arises by condition from moment of birth to death. And at moment of, is there Alberto? Why the answer is yes, there is. Because even right now, no thought, no thinking about anything else at all. Even that is there, Roberto, in truth. Because there's the clinging to bhava, being, existence. As long as there is an existence, who else is there? No understanding that it's only a reality which experiences an object. And when there's no thinking about the object, is there the experiencing, the clinging to the being, to life? Is that not true? When there is the answer, yes, there is Alberto. Before that, what is there? To condition the moment of yes, there is Alberto. There is Sujin, see? So who does not have the Pavasava? As Ami still have Pavasava. So only Arahata doesn't have Pavasava. So we begin to understand the different levels of akusala and kusala. So very subtle, even it's there. Attachment unknowingly to that which appears, which is Dhamma, the sense thought. And some by another aspect, it includes also being two. Kamupadana, see, Kama is attachment, Upadana to whatever is there. Talking about the Upadana, the four Upadana. But when we talk about Asava, to understand the difference between Sotapanna, Skatagami, Anagami, and Arahata. That's why Anagami doesn't have Kamasava, but Anagami still have Bhavasava. That's why we learn to understand that no matter what there, when it's not wholesome, when it's not wholesome, it has to be unwholesome by way of the four chati. When it's not wholesome or unwholesome, it is kiriya, and so on. That's why we learn to understand the truth that actually what we take for someone, some situation, are only different realities, citta and cittasika, rupa, by conditions. Otherwise, there must be the clinging to what is there as I all the time. But in order to understand, no matter when, even at moment of waking up, nothing does not appear yet, but the feeling is so pleasant. See? The feeling is pleasant. Who feels at that very moment? A reality. And who is that? I feel that very moment as it is, as so very pleasant. That's why it's not easy to understand aswa, but it's there to be known that it's still there. As long as there's not enough understanding to let go the aswa as the sotapanna, sakatagami, and so on, it has to be there. And without understanding, who knows? So Buddha pointed out even it does not appear as kilesa or sanyochana or nivarana, but it's there when it is akusala. And the four, kamasava, vasava, itasava, avicchasava. And this will condition moment of beginning to see the complication of all dhammas arising together and following instantly. What are they? So when one is not a sotapanna, there must be didasava and avicchasava, which does not arrive with didasava as long as one has become sotapanna. But when there's no realization of the truth to eradicate wrong understanding, titi, and wrong view, it's there. To be known that it's still there. Otherwise, the other sect in Buddha's time had the idea that they have enlightened the truth, but actually no understanding of what is there. So ignorance, take that for I had no kilesa, it's completely gone. But in truth, without understanding of what is there now, there can never be the moment of letting go, avijja and asava or titi, depending on conditions at that very moment. What is there as it is by condition? So at moment of vasava, so very pleasant, at moment of waking up, what condition that? Not clinging to anything like sound or smell or whatever at all, but it's there, so pleasant. So it is pavasava, avijjasava, not understanding the truth. That's why when there is the understanding of the truth of what is there now, right understanding understands that. If there's no understanding of that right now, how can right understanding develop to understand what is there in daily life? Because to be a sotapanna doesn't mean that. There can be moment of enlighten the truth, but not understanding what is there now or what is there in life from that moment on. That's why to become a sotapanna is not anyone at all, but only the right understanding at the level that it can experience directly the Four Noble Truths. And what is the truth now, arising and falling away, but it's not penetrated yet as no one there at all, no thing at all. So even the understanding of the truth of Nama, that which experiences, is not easy, because while one heard about the truth, it's not anyone, it's there by condition, it arises to experience, but now it's not known yet at moment of seeing, thinking, liking, so on. That's why how can it be completely, absolutely eradicated? Impossible. That's why there is anusaya and asava, and when it appears, it can be moment of kilesa or nivarana or sanyochana, depending on the characteristic of that very moment. It's conditioned to show up as that only, not as asava when it's there. Anger appears, or attachment so strong, or even it appears that I like this, just like, see. But before liking, before moment of liking it, what are there? From moment to moment, unknown. The asava, it does not appear. But when that, for example, just get up and do many, many things in the morning, eating and so on. At moment of walking, just step by step, only one step, what is there? Unknown. The Dhamma and the Rupa at that very moment. Avijjasava is there too. Until there is a moment of understanding, that very moment, which is attachment. So it's known as a reality which is attached. But before that, as soon as one opens one's eyes, what Buddha taught about 3 moments as a seed, Usually, when there's no kusala, when there's no right understanding, it's there, unknown. That's why the teachings of the Buddha condition the moment of understanding the truth, the absolute truth, that which is now can be known stage by stage as it's there by condition. So no one at all, no one make it arise. And when it has arisen, it cannot be anyone because it's gone instantly, and so on. Just having more confidence of the truth to be conditioned for at moment when direct understanding of a reality right now is there. By conditions, that's the way to let go the idea of self, the atta no titi, sakaya titi, and all kinds of titi, little by little. Right now, we're talking about seeing to be known. How much understanding of seeing is there? A little more unknown, like holding the knife handle. Who knows how much it is wearing away from moment to moment, little by little. But when it had attained the goal, the enlightenment, this moment is the path leading to understanding and letting go what is there which has been taken for something or I all the time. Otherwise, there's no way to understand what is there as it is. That which experiences, how come? Because the object is there and attention is on that object. What is there? And so on, unknowingly, from moment of birth, just attend to that which appears as something. But if there is no reality which experiences it, how can it be seen or heard or smelled or tasted? Impossible. That's why when there is the understanding of there's no clear understanding of that which experiences now yet. So listening to it and understand the difference between that which appears and that which is now see it. It's there, different ones. To let go the idea of I or someone or something there. And this is the only way to understand what asava is. It's not the moment when one can understand or can know, I like this. See, it's not asava. But before that, there must be asava too. Who knows? Each process by conditions, arising and falling away alternately by conditions, very, very complicated. And only Panya can learn to know what is what and what is there. Is there anyone who'd like to try to understand or to directly know asava? Without understanding the nature of that which appears, it's impossible to understand asava. Is there kamasva now? Unknown. It's just very common. The tower, the soap and on, so very common. Is there any asava at moment of seeing it as that and that? Or even not as that yet? This is the subtlety of reality as it is, which has been on and on and on, accumulated on and on, ignorance and attachment and wrong understanding. That's why only Panya can understand what is there little by little until it's very sharp enough to directly experience the truth because of the awareness with right understanding. Begin to be aware of a characteristic, and it's known at that moment that it is aware. of that very object by conditions. No expectation at all, no choice. It's there at any moment by conditions only. And how much understanding is there about this cannot be known. Like Sariputta never knew before that he would become Sotapanna in what life, from whom, from what word. Unexpectedly, but right understanding had been developed years and years to be a Sotapanna, to realize the truth of what is said now. Only that which is there as object arises in forcefully by nimitta. So we live in the world of nimitta from life to life. And the truth is that without the absolute truth, there cannot be any nimitta at all. There cannot be the moment of taking it for something because of the accumulation of sanya, mass, and remembers from moment to moment until it appears as a person, a thing. The sun and the moon and so on. Just consider what is there taught by the Buddha about this moment is true or not. And Panya is there. Begin to implant the understanding of the truth that it can be known. And it's the only thing in life, no matter what life, which is so very precious, to understand the truth underlying at any moment. Ignorance is there underlying too.
Ajahn, I'm sorry to interrupt here, but when we're talking about ditthi, it would seem that ditthi, the wrong view, until it's eradicated, it's my ditthi.
Pardon?
Ditthi, which arises so often, and sometimes we know, sometimes we don't. But from hearing the discussion today, I'm thinking that it's you know, we say there's ditthi, and yet until the ditthi is eradicated, most likely it is, even though we don't notice it, my ditthi.
As long as Panya is not there to understand that
Yeah.
very moment as it is, can there be the understanding of ditthi?
Yes.
It's there unknown because of ignorance, no
Yes.
understanding. Only understanding at this moment can be known as whether it's the ditthi of that which appears, what level. Normally, sakkaya ditthi, attanuditthi. Not like the killing is good, should be not done or something like that. No karma, no vipaka, no conditions at all. That is ditthi. But now, what is there? The common one is that which is so natural because it's conditioned to experience that with ignorance. And when there is ignorance, not only ignorance, because what is there too, depending on how much Panya can realize the truth. As Buddha, he realized what is asava and anusya and so on. But for the others, even it's there, it cannot be known. Only when it's strong enough, like at moment of, I like this. See, it's there to be known. But before that, who like? At moment of experience it, the soap in the bathroom, see, is there any time understanding moment of taking it for something when it's not there? To understand the truth that actually one moment of experiencing an object, can that be known or realized? Because it has to be the whole process taught by the Buddha until it's there. Begin to understand what is there, little by little. As there are so many things appearing, the flower, the bed, the curtain, the window, and so on, at once. So what about that at once to take it? But there are so many realities. There must be ignorance, there must be manasikara, citta, and so on, unknown. That's why learn to understand what is what in reality, in a moment, to understand that even just one moment cannot be taken for anything at all, because it's there by conditions and then gone instantly. But Sanya marks and remember it and keeps on thinking about it as something permanent. The soap is still there in the bathroom, but in truth, is there any soap?
No. No, there isn't.
So deep that it needs panya to consider carefully, wisely, and be truthful to the truth. Otherwise, it cannot condition the moment of understand that which appears, which hasn't been thought about or considered carefully as what is it at all, until it begins to attend to what is there. And from understanding intellectually about the truth, it can condition moment of sati, thinking about the truth, or directly aware of the truth, depending on conditions. So no one can force sati to arise. No one can make sati to arise because it's not sati at all. It's intention, cetana, to have it. That's why cetana is not one of the Eightfold Paths at all. If it can be the path, everyone will become enlightened at moment of cetana, to have it or to be enlightened. That's why learning to let go is the moment of understand the truth of it. Otherwise, what can let go of? The moment of seeing and hearing as something or I. And when it's not there yet, how can it become instantly going somewhere and thinking about what is there? Not understanding that actually there's no one and no thing at all to do, but what is done by right understanding or wrong understanding.
Right. That's helpful. Thank you.
And just getting back to your question, Anne, I'm reminded by that wrong view masquerades as right view.
Yes.
So when there's wrong view, it thinks it's correctly understanding the way things are in truth and reality. And that's why, as I understand it, it's more than just having an idea of me and you.
Yes, yes.
Not every idea of I'm tired, I'm hungry, has to be with wrong view,
Right.
because
right.
it is the opposite of right view. So it's not just the absence of right view, and this is relevant to a point that Alberto was making earlier. Absence of right view does not mean that wrong view is present. Wrong view is something more positive than that. It's a belief that there is understanding. Mm-hmm. So it seems to me if there's just thinking in the day, lost in thought, we'll say, at such moments there's no idea of the way things are in truth and reality. So wrong view, of course, is maybe subtly present or as an asava, but wouldn't be apparent even if panya did arise. But wrong view is only known by panya. I mean, one can deduce its presence when there's wrong, a tendency to wrong practice, for example, any time of thinking, I should spend more time doing this, or I should pay more attention to that, or I should whatever. Obviously, wrong view is involved there, but one can deduce that it must have been there, but it may not, its characteristic may not be present. And ultimately, wrong view can only be known by its characteristic, not by the situation.
Right, right. I think where I was trying to go with that, and I'm clearly not expressing it well. For instance, when you said wrong view is often a belief, or can be a belief that something is the way that in fact it isn't. But at that point, it's usually my belief. So it comes wrong view in two ways. But I
Well, they'd
guess,
be separate moments, I suppose.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just like there can be right view and then my right view too, for that matter.
Right.
Just
Or
depending.
banya and, yeah.
Yeah, just depending
Banya
on
and
the.
my banya, yeah.
Yeah,
Two
right.
different moments. Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much, Dhanajanka.
ยินดีค่ะคุณแอน
ขอบคุณค่ะท่านอาจารย์อีกครั้งหนึ่งค่ะ
And we chatted briefly last week about when there are different health issues or issues related to the body, how so quickly it's the idea of my problem, my body, something there, a situation there, not the understanding of just what appears now. One's so quickly lost in the drama, the story, the scenario, and it's all taken for self. Is there anything you wanted to mention or discuss in this area?
What can I say? Well, memory comes to mind. My memory has very quickly, not so good. And I find myself thinking about it in Dhamma terms sometimes, as well as health terms, but really it's all Dhamma. And certainly when there's a lot of forgetfulness, it turns into my forgetfulness. But that's thinking about it conventionally. I don't know. Everybody else must be wondering what I'm talking about. I actually have a brain condition that's going to have to be operated on, and I'm told will be fine once it's operated on. But in the meantime, the memory is going downhill, as are some cognitive skills. But yeah, I've been trying to put it into a Dhamma perspective, and it's conditions, and it's moment to moment, and the conditions, they don't condition this problem. I'm not saying this well at all. That's what I'm having trouble with these days. Maybe you can help me, Sarah.
I think that, I mean, first of all, we tend to think about memory conventionally, like when we can't remember the name of the friend we're speaking to, even when it's a good friend, like here, like someone here, and we can't get the phrase and we can't remember the term. We think of that as poor memory. But of course, we know in terms of dhammas, there is memory at every moment. So it just depends on on different conditions, especially the different accumulations, as to what the memory is marking, what sanya is marking at each moment. And I think that, like you say, we think of different conditions affecting the memory. And of course, when there's a lot of worry and anxiety, that also conditions what we think of as the conventional memory, because one's basically the attention is to something else, and one is
Yeah.
confused. And like when Jonathan was going through his treatments, it was harder to follow the discussion because one was distracted. So memory's there at each moment, but it depends on conditions as to what it's marking and remembering. And like you say, there's always the idea of my memory, my forgetfulness, my condition, just forgetting that it's just seeing now, it's just hearing now, thinking now, no matter whether it's what we would like to think about or not. So whatever the topic, it has to come back to this moment. And in a moment of wise considering, there's no issue with the brain or the forgetfulness or any other of the usual dramas, because it's just the understanding at this moment only. And
these thoughts of my situation, good or bad, are of course quite natural. We all have them. And whether it's wrong view or whether it's, say, mana, will depend. It can only be known by the characteristic. But if we just speak generally for a minute, the poor me kind of thought is comparing, oneself to the rest of the world.
Yes.
And tends to be mana, as I understand it. But I don't think one can be assertive about that. But I'm just saying that one, just because it's thought of me, doesn't necessarily mean wrong view involved, as I think we can appreciate. It can be attachment, it can be conceit, or it can be wrong view. And these different kilesa are to be known by their characteristic rather than by the words that come to mind at the moment when there's thinking.
Yes, that's true. And if they come to mind, don't come to mind, that's also condition.
We just have a little bit of time left. Perhaps Jan might like to add a few comments to what you were mentioning too.
Where is the asura?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it, John.
Where is the asura?
Where is it?
Yes, when is it?
Oh, when is it? It can arise. It can arise anytime, unknown.
When it's not moment of kusala, not moment of understanding, it's 3 moments after seeing and hearing. See?
Yeah.
So where are we now? Surrounded with akusala.
Yes.
To walk on the way, to let go. Ignorance is just, it's so very, it has to be so very careful, like just walking on the thorn around.
Mm-hmm.
And the thorn is the kilesa, unknown stage by stage, until it becomes to be known, like at moment of like or dislike, doubt or no doubt, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And this is life in samsara. And this is the development of understand the truth of what is there, because only what is there is the truth now.
Yes. And knowing what is there takes, well, it's understanding, only understanding if Banya can know.
So this life is that which developing understanding from moment to moment. So very precious at moment of understanding. Otherwise, what is there, even is so pleasant, actually it's gone, even right now. But clinging and sanya marks and remembers as it's there permanent. Nitya sanya.
Yes.
So understand the teaching of the Buddha. Each word means a lot. So much to learn until it appears as it is. Like seeing right now, it does not appear yet as it is until it's there. appears only to Panya, which can penetrate the truth of just one characteristic of a reality as seeing, different from the others. That is the only way to learn to understand each reality as different ones, as it is. Otherwise, there must be the idea of mind all the time, seeing, hearing, thinking. But in truth, it's just a moment when it's there to be realized as it's gone too. When they are together, how can there be the moment of realizing what arises and what falls away? But when it appears just one, closer and clearer, no thought of cling to the other which arises after. No matter what it is, it's there, only that there, which can be object of understanding little by little. So it is the way to develop parami, to understand what is there now as it is. One day, when time comes, when conditions are ready, no expectation for any life, any object at all. This is the only way to let go the wish or the clinging to understand it, to experience it. So soon, impossible. Depending on this very moment, how much understanding is there. And this is the way it develops, not I develop, but the citta and citasika, the reality is now arising and performing the function to develop next moment, to be with a little more understanding, unknown, as holding the knife handle.
Mhm. Yes.
So no expectation at all, just understand what is there. When we learn about it, or think about it, consider it. Even considering is not self, what is that? Buddha pointed out what is what at that very moment. And when there is more understanding of the truth, there can be more understand who the Buddha was, the enlightened one, and what is meant by enlightened at moment of penetration, the truth, which is so very subtle, even it's there, it's not known, because of avijja, sava, and so on and on, so very thick from moment to moment. That's why there is the word begin again and again and again, because it is the way to begin to develop just one more moment, and one more moment, one more moment, until it appears as different stages, pariyati, patipatti, and pativeda. All the way is letting go, clinging, and ignorance. And when there is the understanding, one gets closer to understand who's the Buddha and his teachings and the truth of this very moment.
Mm. Yes. Thank you, Ajahn.
Is it time now?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sawadee
Achan, before you go, I just want to make one little comment. And you said just a moment ago, no expectation, just learn to understand what arises. I find that a very comforting idea. So, kokumaka and sawadika.
Thank you very much.